It's been 2 months since I launched my painting series, Backwards Beauty. I'm just so proud of what I've accomplished in 2 months, and I thought I would recap what it's all about for anybody new here. My name is Jan, and I live on the East Coast of the United States. I'm a 57-year-old artist, and after chronic fatigue and illness crept into my life, I found myself disconnected from my art and my creativity. I had just about given up hope of ever reconnecting to it when, out of curiosity, I decided to play with Adobe's new AI tool, Firefly. I didn't start out with the intention to create anything, but after months of playing, I developed a whole painting series based on my love for all things feminine, animals, plants, flowers, and even color. I call my new painting series Backwards Beauty. I used AI to create nostalgic portraits of women, and then I used the images as reference for my new painting project, Backwards Beauty. The reason why I call them Backwards Beauty is because I turn the women around, so you view them from behind. I did this so you get the essence of the woman without the face, making her more relatable to the viewer. My wish is you can imagine yourself as that woman, or at least that's what I do. Each one has a special connection to me because none of the elements in these images were picked randomly. I thoughtfully picked every detail, from the background to the style of her dress, to the way she wears her hair or the color of it, to what the beauty is holding. I have often used items or colors that have deep meaning to me, but also just make for wonderful images. When I started creating these images, I was instantly inspired to create again. I wanted to paint these portraits. I was reconnected to the magic of making. It was a big surprise to me. I had no idea what started out of curiosity would end up changing my life. I have challenged myself to show up here each week in the studio and paint. I record it all and share it with you here. It's my hope to build a community of like-minded souls to talk about everything to do with art and the challenges of creating and connecting to it and anything else. So it's my wish that you hit the subscribe button and come back each week and see what I'm up to. I would love to have you here. So that's it. That's my little recap. Thanks for listening. Let's get on to the rest of the video. Four years before I even created this painting series, I started collecting antique frames. I didn't know how I was going to use them, but I just knew I would figure it out. So I've been collecting frames for some time now. My collection is well over 30 frames, I think. Honestly, I'm a little afraid to count them. I look for them everywhere. Yard sales, thrift stores, and of course, antique stores. Today we're visiting one of my favorite antique malls in Verona, that's a tongue twister. Verona, Virginia, called the Factory Antique Mall. It's so large, they named all the aisles with street names so you don't get lost. I have always had a love for old stuff. Maybe because my family has a real problem getting rid of things. So I always am surrounded by old stuff when I was growing up. I was taught the value of holding on to something and reusing and repurposing it. When I look for frames, I'm looking for a few things. I would preferably want it to be gold or wooden or both. It needs to be well crafted and good condition, but can be aged and look a little shabby chic, let's say. I would love an oval frame, but they are hard to find, especially bigger ones. And rectangles, of course, work. And the hardest part of all is they need to be affordable. It's hard to find affordable frames with nothing in them. Usually they've framed and they have beautiful paintings or pictures or something. So that's always a struggle. I did manage to find a few frames, and here's a quick look at what I got. I got a few gold frames and a bunch of wooden frames with a little gold added. I think I'll probably have to rehab some of the gold frames, especially the oval ones. The gold color just isn't to my liking. These will look really good with backwards beauties in them. When I find these frames, I usually can visualize how they will look filled with one of my paintings. It gets me so excited to create more and to show up and paint every day. This week in the studio, I'm working on a backwards beauty that is very large. The largest painting so far. There's so much I want to share with you about this one, but let's start from the beginning and the thinking behind this painting. She was inspired by my love of all things Victorian, but also my love for plants. I have always loved plants, but when we went through the pandemic, buying plants and bringing them home and surrounding myself with them in my space was something that kept me sane. Let me know in the comments if you can relate. My collection grew and my obsession did also. I really believe in the power of plants in your space to change the energy, to uplift the air, and to bring a feeling of calmness. To let you in on the thinking behind the palm crown, I have to explain a little bit of how my imagination works. Sometimes I play this game where I ask myself, if I was stranded on an island and didn't have modern resources, how would I solve the same problem? In this case, this image, I asked myself, what could I use for a crown? What in nature could I use as a crown that would look beautiful and regal? The palm leaf crown was born. When I first started painting this, I couldn't help but think of the Statue of Liberty. So I named her Alexandra, which was a popular Victorian name that means defender of mankind. I thought it was fitting. The original image I created didn't have any plants surrounding her, but after spending some time with her, I felt like she needed more plants. I wanted it to feel like she was standing in her solarium, aka greenhouse, sunroom, and surrounded by all her plants she loved. The reason why I tackled such a big painting was because I inherited a large frame from my grandparents, and it has been in storage for many years. The frame was filled with a portrait of a man that I didn't have any connection to. He wasn't a part of our family and really didn't want on my wall. Hence, my Backwards Beauty series were created with the exact intention of creating portraits that were more relatable. So I was so excited to pick a Backwards Beauty to fill this frame. Because the frame was so large, I knew I wanted it to be Victorian and regal. So that was why I chose Alexandra for this portrait, for this frame. I had to create a custom canvas board to fill this frame, which I could do a whole video on everything I learned through that process. Let me know if you want to see a video on my tips for creating custom canvas boards. Now that I've explained the meaning behind the creation of this painting, let's talk about painting large and stepping out of your comfort zone. What is it about painting large that can be so intimidating? I know the first thought that comes to my mind, that will take a lot of paint. And the second thing, that will take a lot of time. And lastly, if I mess up, if I make a mistake, it will be glaringly big. But I was pleasantly surprised and think most of these obstacles can be overcome with just a little planning and a little mind shift. I came up with 5 tips that will help you step out of your comfort zone and paint large. These things helped me, so I wanted to share them with you. So number 1, start with a base layer of acrylic paint or a very thin layer of oil paint. I found that covering the canvas with a fast-drying base layer helped fill that white space, which in turn made it feel so less intimidating. Having that base layer helped me use less oil paint in the layers to come. Number 2, set up your space. It's important to set up your space so you can work on the piece comfortably. But I think even more important is to be able to step back from your canvas. This is important so you can get a different perspective. Number 3, using the right brush. This sounds obvious, but sometimes we get used to using the same brushes and don't even reach for anything different. I had to remind myself to pick up bigger brushes. This can make the job of covering large areas much easier and more fun. Number 4, use your whole body. Painting large can be a freeing experience, so make sure you take advantage of it. Get your whole body involved in the process, and in doing so, you can get results that are more expressive in your work. Not to mention, it feels good to move your body expressively. Number 5, view your work backwards. This is something I learned in art school, but hadn't thought of it for years. I was filming myself using the front-facing camera, which turns everything backwards. And after viewing the footage, I noticed some glaring mistakes. I marked the mistakes and then sanded the area down so I could easily paint over it without any trouble. Remember, creating large paintings is a new experience, so there will be challenges and learning opportunities. Enjoy the journey and appreciate the growth that comes with taking on a bigger, bolder project. Whether you finish in one session or many, painting large can give you new insight and a fresh excitement about your art. Now I give you Alexandra. So tell me, if you were stranded on an island, what would you use to make a crown? Also curious, are you plant obsessed like me? Do you dream of owning a solarium? Spending time with all your plants, talking to them, taking care of them? It's a judgment-free zone here. Let me know in the comments. Next week's video. I am back on the road again for a quick trip to the Eastern Shore. Every November, I travel to the beach on the East Coast of the United States. I have always been called to spend time near the sea. It restores my soul and puts me in a state of peace like no other. I will be sharing my travel tips for setting up a space and for creating when you're away from your studio, and what I do to make the space your own. I've picked out a few backwards beauties to work on while I'm here at the beach. I'm excited and a little terrified to tackle them. I will be sharing all my thoughts on that more next week. See you then.
I've made a gift for you, and you can find it on my website, janlakey.com. It's a video with my top 5 tips for creating AI reference art. I've learned a lot through this process, and I think this video will help anybody who's just getting started using AI, or somebody who's already using AI and having trouble getting the results that they want. So go on over to my website and get your free gift.